Things you need to know before you get started. Number one, you need to know which pattern you're using. And I've chosen the Lee pattern, and you can see that it is smocked on the skirt rather than having an insert. And that's what I want to show you how to do, is change that to having an insert and having your back yoke and your front yoke piping to meet when you're all finished. And that's the important part. So we've got our pattern. Then we have to know how many rows it actually calls for, which we're going to change, but I'm doing a size 6. So on the 6, it says rows to pleat 12, rows to smock 10, and then it gives you the width of the bottom guide, but we have the bottom guide out, so we're not going to really pay attention to that. But I'm going to change the rows to smock and the rows to pleat. I'm going to smock 8 rows, and then I'll pleat 10 rows, just so we can change it so you can really tell what I'm talking about. So now we've established that. I've pinned the pattern pieces together, the front yoke, the blocking guide, and the back yoke. I've pinned them together so that you could kind of see what I'm talking about when I mean they have it set up for a certain amount of rows pleated and smocked. And that would be, they've set it up for 10 rows of smocking. And so that way, everything, when you match up your seams, everything matches and is the right size. Well, since we're going to change it to 8 rows smocked, that's where we're going to have to figure out how much to cut off. So that's our purpose. There's a couple of ways you can tie off your strip, and that is just leaving 1/4 inch on each side of your strip, and I've tied it off according to whatever size front yoke that I am doing. So that gets tied off the same amount. And this piece would have fabric, like our dress, added to either side so that we can cut our armholes out. The other way is to leave 2 inches on either side, and again, tie this off to the size of your front yoke, and then your armholes will get cut out of this fabric. So you're not going to add any fun fabric onto the sides, and either way is right. The only thing that I don't usually do is tie it all the way off to the width of the smocking guide, because that leaves you less pleats in here to smock. And if I'm doing picture smocking, I want the most amount of pleats in here. This way leaves the most amount of pleats if you're just tying off and then adding fabric to it. Or the other thing is, you could buy some 60-inch wide fabric and pleat that up. So then you'd have plenty of fabric. Let me talk for a minute why I tied this off to this size. My actual pattern piece that I'm going to use, the seam, from the seam to the center, measures 4.5 inches. So I tied this off to 9 plus 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side, which will make it just right. So if I lay this pattern piece on my fabric, right where the seams match up, you'll see that I just have a little 1/4 inch seam allowance over here, which I'll use to add my fabric on. And this is matching up with the center. So I'm all set. Now it's time to add our extra pieces onto the side. And I have found the easiest way to do that is to just add some glue onto that seam allowance and take our strip and match it right up. It can even go past it a little bit because you're going to go by the seam anyway. Stick it down. I've already done the other side. Flip it over. Now when I sew it, I'm going to sew right next to that pleat on both sides. Then I'll trim it and zigzag it, and it'll be ready for us to start. Now you can see I've got everything ready to go. I've got the collars piped and they're on the front yokes and back yokes. Now I did make one mistake here, and I'm going to show you what it is, and I am not changing it. So there you go. When I drew my armholes on, when I laid this strip to measure, I got it upside down. See how these trees are upside down? I looked down and I realized, oh, those markings were supposed to be over here. That doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see that. I'm leaving it on. We all make mistakes. Get over it, right? But anyway, here's what I did. Once I got everything on, and I pinned the front yoke onto the piping with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, because I don't want to sew this on yet. I like to sew my back yokes to my skirts before I sew my front yokes. It's just a lot easier. It's not so much bulk. So what I did was, before I did anything, I took my armhole and I placed it at the top of my fabric, because that's what it says to do. And I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance up here. I laid it on and I drew my armhole, and then I cut it out. Then I laid everything together, front yoke and back yoke, and I see that I need to cut off 5/8 of an inch down here at the bottom of the back. So when I put my piping and my skirts on, when I'm finished, my piping should match. The front and the back should match on the sides. That's what I'm hoping for, and we'll see in a minute. Isn't this just the cutest combination ever? Even though I did put those upside down. But it's just that hot pink and those pretty greens. It's just beautiful. So I'm going to go do the back skirts and get everything ready, and then I'll come back so we can see how it matched up. It's all done, and is it not just the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? I just love it. It's the happiest little Christmas dress because of the pinks and the greens and the white. I just absolutely adore it. Now, our whole thing was that we needed to put this strip in that wasn't there in the first place, and have the side seams with the piping match up with the back and the front, and that has happened. So let me just turn it over here on the side so you can see it. You can see very well that the piping in the front and the piping in the back all match up, and that's what was important to me. It may not be important to anybody else, but it's important to me. Now remember, back when we were first cutting out and measuring, I decided that we needed to remove 5/8 of an inch from the back yoke to make this happen. So when I went to cut the skirts, what I did was I used the same measurement as the pattern gave me, and I added 5/8 inch to the skirt. And then I cut, so that was my back skirt. So then I cut my front skirt exactly the same. So everything is going to come out the same size as the pattern says. It's just that you rearranged a little bit. So I hope you try this. It's not hard. It really isn't. Just take it step by step. If you need any help, just give me a holler. But I think you're going to love the outcome of the pattern, and adding your insert in. That way you could smock and insert, just have it in your bag and get ready to, smock it and then sew it up whenever you get ready. Or do like I did and do a ready to smock. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Remember, Connie Palmer Sewing. I know things and I want you to know.